With training camp now underway, we've seen a lot of changes happen to players' outlook, whether they're playing on the top line or they're playing on the top power play unit. I want to be noting guys that have made changes so far in the preseason I think should be must draft players on your fantasy teams. So in this video, guys, I'm going to be giving you 5 players that I think you need to be drafting in all of your fantasy leagues. This is going to be a good video, guys, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. I am so excited for JJ Peterka's season this year. Now, I liked him a lot going into training camp, and now after a lot of the news has been disclosed in terms of the lines and the power play lines, I like him even more. So right now, he's currently skating on the top line with Tage Thompson and Alex Tuch, and he's currently skating on the top power play unit. Exactly what we were hoping for prior to preseason is exactly what we're seeing now in preseason. And this is really exciting for a guy that's going very, very late in drafts that has league winning upside. So before I get into it, I just want to say that in the position eligibility right now, I just have I have left wing and right wing, and I have an asterisk beside left wing. And on Yahoo, he's currently just right wing. Now, the reason why I have the asterisk there is because he's currently skating as a left winger in Buffalo right now. So if my understanding is correct, it's usually about 10 games at one position to gain that eligibility. We know Yahoo is a complete disaster in terms of their eligibility, but hopefully after 10 games, Peterka does get that dual position eligibility, gets the left wing, and just makes him a lot more flexible for you in their lineup. Now, Peterka last season, he had a mini breakout, scoring 28 goals, second most on Buffalo, added 226 shots, while contributing almost all of his success at 5-on-5. Now, he finished last season 25th in even strength goals with 25, 19th in even strength shots with 197, and in the latter half of the season, he was promoted to top 6 and power play 1, and that's why we were on him going into this year. So over the last 15 games of the year, he played 19 minutes and 31 seconds average time on ice. He had 7 goals, 10 points, and added 49 shots, over 3 shots per game, and very, very good goal rate. Now, with the upside to play line 1 and power play 1, we saw this in the first preseason game. He scored a hat trick, and I feel like now a lot of people are going to be on him. And then he followed that up in the second game with 2 assists and 4 shots. And this is why I'm getting really, really excited about Peterka, because he was extremely good at 5-on-5 last year, playing in like a line 2, line 3 role, power play 2, and still had really good numbers. But now he's going to be playing in a top line, top power play role. And I do think he has the upside to finish as a top 100 skater in fantasy this year. At ADP 163, it doesn't make any sense to me right now. And I got asked a question in the Discord, where would you be taking Peterka? Now, if you're in really competitive leagues where people are very knowledgeable, they understand the sleepers and players that are going late and have good value, I'd be looking to take Peterka about round 10, round 11, maybe a little bit later, depending on how your draft's going. And in non-competitive leagues, you can probably wait till the 13th, 14th round to be grabbing Peterka, a guy that has huge upside this season. Now, we're projecting him for 61 points, 30 goals, 253 shots, and 18 of those points on the power play. Very, very good numbers from a guy that's going basically drafted at the end of rounds right now. Now, it's a low risk at his current ADP, but there's a ton of upside. I do think he can be a league winner this season, and he's going to be a guy I want to be drafting on all of my teams. All this news coming out in preseason is just getting me so excited, and I'm so happy to see that Brandon Hegel has been moved up to the top power play unit. Now, last year, his season was pretty much forgotten about, but he was extremely good. He finished 8th in the league in even strength points with 65 in front of guys like Leon Draisaitl, Mikko Rantanen, Philip Forsberg, JT Miller, and William Nylander, who are 5 guys that are pretty much going like top 15, top 18 in drafts right now. Now, I'm definitely not comparing Hegel to those guys because we know their peripherals and their overall upside is so much better. But still, Hegel seemed to be the outlier when I sorted by even strength points, where he was 8th in the league last year, and I was like looking, how good of a season did he have? But 75 points in 82 games, played 19 minutes per night, had 184 shots and 55 hits. And the biggest thing for me in preseason, if you listen to the Must Draft Wingers video, I said the biggest thing for Hegel is if he can secure a role on the top power play unit. And right now in camp, they've done a few days of special teams, and it looks like Hegel is confirmed on the top power play unit. Now they're shifting him in the Kucherov spot and then in the Stamkos spot from last season. And what it looks like in the most recent update is he's going to be in the Steven Stamkos spot, which is the shooting position. And we know the impact that Nikita Kucherov has on the power play and what he can do for all the players. He's just such a beast on the power play. So it should only help Hegel more. Now, the downside right now is that he's currently not skating with Kucherov or Point. It's going to be Gensel there on the top line. So Hegel's with Cirelli and Cam Atkinson, a little bit worse of 5-on-5 line mates than he had last season. So maybe we see that production go down, but the power play point production should only go up from what we saw last season. Now, right now, he's ending up about ADP 110, 111. He's dual position eligible, which makes him even more attractive. I'd be looking to take him in round 9, round 10. Very strong point upside, very strong power play point upside now that he's skated on the top power play unit. We project him for 72 points in 80 games, 13 points in the power play, and 190 shots on goal. Conservative power play point projection, but he really hasn't had time on the top power play unit in his career. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this shakes out for Hegel right now. But the biggest thing for me is I was just hoping he would be on the top power play unit, and he is. So he's going to be a guy that I think you should draft in all of your leagues this season. Martin Necas was definitely a guy that hurt a lot of you last season. If you exhausted a lot of draft capital, I think he was going about round 6 and 7. You're probably off of him this year. And 2 years ago, he broke out 28 goals, 71 points, 26 points on the power play, and 240 shots. He was playing over 18 minutes per night in a top 6 power play 1 role, but then followed that up last year and just had a completely disappointing season with 24 goals, 53 points, 13 points on the power play, and 231 shots. Decline of 18 points, decline of 13 power play points, with a slight drop in minutes to 1721 from 1825 the season prior. But fortunately for us, now you get to draft Necas at a significant discount, going about round 9, round 10 right now in 12-team leagues, and he's a legitimate 70 point, 20 plus point power play point guy. Now, the crazy part about his 2023 season for me is he actually managed to increase his shot rate from 9.5 shots per 60 to 10.4 shots per 60, meaning he was still getting really good offensive chances. He was still sustaining a very strong shot rate. He just wasn't producing the way he should. The puck wasn't going in the back of the net. He was getting no puck luck from his line mates. I definitely don't want to be blaming that. But the biggest thing I want to mention is just that his shot rate actually improved, even though he had a worse season last year. Now, over the last 15 games of the season, even with Jake Gensel there on the Carolina Hurricanes and little power play time, Necas had 48 shots on net, top 15 shots over that time. And of those 50 players, he actually had the lowest shooting percentage at just 6%. So early looks in camp right now for Necas. He's currently skating on the second line and on the top power play unit, exactly where he was back in 2022 when he broke out for 71 points. The power play point production really hurt him last season. You saw in 22 where he had 26 power play points and 71 total points. And then last year, just 13 points on the power play and 53 total points. So hopefully the shot rate is a very big bonus, but now he's going to be playing again on the top power play unit with Svechnikov, Jarvis, Aho, and Gostisbehere. So there's a lot to like from Necas going into this season. He's center right wing eligible. He's going pretty late right now in drafts. You can definitely grab him as like your 5th or 6th forward off the board, really depending on how your draft goes. But he's not really be considered a lot in drafts right now. I feel like a lot of people aren't really on him, and that just gives you more reason to be drafting him. So with Martin Necas right here, guys, he's someone I want to be drafting on my fantasy teams. He's in line for a pretty strong season in that power play point production. If he can get back to where he was back in 2022, he's going to be a player that pays off huge value for you in fantasy drafts right now, and is a guy I think should be a must draft in all leagues. Speaking of players that hurt us last year, I will fully take the blame for recommending Mikhail Sergachev, who went off 2 seasons ago. He was on Tampa's top power play unit. He had a really strong season, ended up as a league winner for most people if you drafted him 2 years ago, to completely falling off last year. It looked like Victor Hedman took over the top power play unit. Sergachev was demoted down the power play too. Then he got injured and it was downhill from there. But right now, early in training camp, we do have signs of life for the Utah power play. It looks like Sergachev will be taking over the team's top power play quarterback spot, and that's where he last flourished in the NHL. But we don't want to be comparing that Tampa Bay power play to the Arizona power play. Tampa, as we know, is one of the best power plays in the entire NHL. But although it's a downgrade, Utah still ranked last season 16th in the NHL on the power play. So around average, but that's completely fine. Now with their core getting older, Clayton Keller, Cooley, Gunther, and now reaching their prime, and adding Sergachev, who has proven before that he can be a power play 1 quarterback, he's primed for a really strong season. Now, I get it. He burned a lot of you last season. He burned us, and we were recommending him, and it just didn't go well. But that means, similar to Marty Necas, if he burned you last season, that should be no reason why you're off of him this year. You're getting him at a discount. ADP 73 is actually pretty fair for where he's being drafted right now. And on top of the power play numbers, Sergachev's actually a peripheral beast, putting up 156 shots, 149 blocks, and 128 hits in his last full season. So over 120 for all three peripheral categories, which is above league average. And as currently going defenseman 13th off the board, he's a perfect defenseman too. And I like to recommend grabbing a defenseman in the first 3 rounds and then grabbing a defenseman in either round 4 or 5. So if you grab one of those top end defensemen early in the drafts, you can definitely grab Sergachev as your defenseman number 2. He's going to be at the top power play. He doesn't have any competition other than Sean Durzi, who seems to be playing more of a power play 2 and defensive role over in Utah, where Sergachev should be manning that top pair, top power play unit, playing 23 plus minutes per night, giving you great peripheral upside, great power play point upside. Now, we project him this season to play 74 games, so we are taking into account some injury history. 50 points, 17 points in the power play, 142 shots, 117 blocks, and 117 hits and 138 blocks. Very strong numbers from Sergachev, who has a high floor given his peripheral upside and an even higher ceiling on a new team that's primed to have a very strong offensive season with their core getting older, and Sergachev manning that top power play unit like he did in Tampa 2 seasons ago, where he broke out for 64 points. This is a guy I want to be drafted on my team. We're seeing how early defensemen are going in drafts right now, so you're going to have to find some value somewhere, and this is a guy I want to be taking. Listen, this is probably going to be the spiciest take in the video, and it's a very contrarian view in terms of drafting defensemen right now, but bear with me while I break this down. So Seth Jones, definitely not the flashiest defenseman in the league, and we know with his massive contract, just a lot of people are scared off from him, and I totally understand. But as of right now, we've had a couple really competitive Fantasy Puck Patreon League drafts. I've also played in quite a few mock drafts that have been very competitive, and we're seeing how early defensemen are going off the board right now. And what that means is you kind of have to switch your strategy and trying to find those value defensemen later in drafts, and Seth Jones fits the bill perfectly. Power play 1, no competition, going to be playing big minutes, and very strong peripherals actually from Seth Jones. So since 2021, Jones ranks 3rd amongst defensemen in average time on ice, 35th in points, 12th in shots, 25th in blocks, and 80th in hits amongst defensemen. So he's up there about league average or above league average in a lot of the categories. He's way above league average in terms of shots, and we know the minutes are going to be there for Jones. He's a workhorse defenseman, and that's what I love to see. Now, there's nothing flashy about his game, like I said, but he's currently projected to be defenseman 41 off the board right now. And in any leagues that do not have plus minus, I have a lot of interest in Seth Jones as my defenseman 3 or 4 on my team. Now, with the additions of Teravainen, Bertuzzi, and hopefully Hall, he's healthy right now in camp, and then obviously one of the league's brightest young superstars in Connor Bedard entering his 2nd full season. If he can see power play improvements in 2024 compared to what we saw in 2023, Jones could be in line for a 40-point season or a 50-point season and very strong peripheral upside, going at ADP 151 right now. Now, I get it. This is a very contrarian take. I don't think Jones has a league-winning upside, but the big minutes, the strong peripherals, and hopefully the improvements to the Blackhawks offense this season could make him very valuable in leagues right now. I definitely do not see him finishing as defenseman 41, which is his current ranking. I do think he has the upside to finish as a top 25D this year. He's going to be a guy I want to be grabbing in all my leagues just because of how early we're seeing D go off the board. Right now, in the first FPPL draft, we saw about 11 defensemen go by the end of round 3. So you're going to need to be finding those really, really good defensemen later in drafts that play huge minutes in a top power play role. And it seemingly seems like Seth Jones is that guy that's going to be falling late in drafts. That checks all the boxes in terms of the minutes, the deployment, and the upside going into this season. Now, I'm on Jones. You may not be, and I'm curious to hear what other people have to say about him. But I made sure to ask the Discord, and I said, talk me out of Seth Jones, and it seemed like no one could. So he's going to be a guy I want to be grabbing at ADP 151 right now. A lot of upside here. There's really no downside, and it's very low risk. I'm very surprised to see he's not actually taking in 100% of leagues right now, but the mock draft numbers are kind of all over the place. But yep, Jones is going to be a guy I'm on this season, and going to be a guy I'm going to be drafting a lot, and a guy that I think is a must-draft player going into this year. That will do it for the 5 must-have players you should be drafting in fantasy hockey video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.